Hey there, this is Stan, K9SWX, and today I'm going to be talking about a program called OpenWebRX Plus. I'll tell you what it can do, show you how to use it, and how to install it on your very own Raspberry Pi. So one of my favorite programs for the Raspberry Pi and the radio side of things is OpenWebRX Plus. Basically, it's a web interface for your SDR or software-defined radio. And you can listen to all kinds of things. You can do AM, FM broadcast. You can do airplanes, trains, ham radio, shortwave radio, NOAA weather radio, and tons of other things. You can also use it to decode digital modes like Morse Code, RTL, FT8, PSK31, APRS, like I have on the screen right now, and many, many others. The nice thing is you can put it on this Raspberry Pi and remote into it on your network, or with the right configuration, you can set it up to connect over the internet. So before we get into how to install it and all that stuff, I'm just going to kind of walk you through kind of what it looks like here. This is one I already have set up, and I've got it hooked up to just a basic RTL-SDR dongle. And right now I've got it on APRS frequency and the ham radio 2-meter band. And as you can see, it's decoding a bunch of signals. And I'm going to go ahead and transmit here on my HT, and hopefully it will show up. And there you go. So as you can see, that really strong signal was my beacon from my Yaesu FT5 and APRS. And it looks like it even hit one of the local digipeaters. There's my signal, and there's what was heard, probably our local digipeater. So that's APRS. So what about FT8? Sure, let me fire that up. Give it a second here. There we are. There's our, I'm in the same room as the transmitter here, but it decoded my FT8 signal, so that was pretty cool. And what about Morse code? Well, let me get off this frequency for a second. Let me get maybe over here somewhere, and we'll switch it over to the CW decoder. And let me zoom in here. Let me get my radio set up 1 second. All right, so let's try a little CW here. I'm doing this with my ICOM 705 and the microphone as a keyer, so it's not the greatest, but we'll see what happens here. So it decoded a little bit. It's probably because I'm too close to the receiver here, even though I've got the power on 0 on the radio. But you can kind of see that it gave me my call sign. It works a little better with when I'm not so close to the transmitter here. What else? Let's try some sideband here. Let me turn this off, and we'll try sideband. 1 second.
Testing, this is K9SWX.
All right, so that's pretty cool. We can do sideband. What else should we try? How about we jump up to D-Star? I'm going to do some simplex here. We'll just hop up here to, I think 670 is the D-Star frequency. All right, let me put it on D-Star. And here goes nothing.
K9 SWX testing.
You can see it even shows my call sign over here. So that's pretty cool. So it should do D-stars or DMR as well. Let me see if I can. I don't have a DMR radio, but we do have a repeater that is, of course, not active at the moment. But, oh, there was somebody in there. Just have to give it a second here to decode everything. Yeah, you can kind of see it. They're probably just keying up. Here we go. I don't know who that was. DS4 something.
KG50EH monitoring talk group 91.
So there you go. There's DMR. So some of the digital modes, there's a little bit more configuration you have to do. Trying to think what else. Oh, let me pull up a... I'll just pull up an FM station here. I'm not going to play the audio, but if we're lucky, I can find a strong enough signal. Let me try this one. Yeah, it does have an RDS decoder in it, so it shows, like, if you were in the car, this is what it'd be showing you. You got the call letters, and then it's got whatever the song and artist is. So that's pretty cool. That would be very helpful if you're into FM DXing. All right, what else can we do here? Well, we've got the weather radio. Turn the sound on.
The wind was northwest at 9 miles an hour, producing a wind chill of 27. The pressure was 29.99 inches and rising.
So that's your NOAA weather radio frequency in the 162 point, this one's 5.5, but in that little range here. It's the only one I can pick up at the moment. Let's see what else we can find. Oh, let's do some GMRS. Okay, I think I've got it on the right one. No, that's not the right one. Hold on a minute. All right, I do have a GMRS radio. Okay. Oops. WRWG626.
WRWG626 testing.
So there you go. There's FRS, GMRS. What else do we have here? We got the airband. There's not much going on right now. But occasionally you'll hear airlines or... Oh, there's one.
We continue our descent. Okay, total 1,000
Well, that was good timing there. We got pilot there talking to... that's Chicago Center. So there's another band you can monitor. What else do I have programmed in here? Trying to think. We already looked at that one. You know, we got all kinds of ham stuff. You can do HF, but with the regular RTL antenna, it will not pick any of those up. Like I can't really see my local. There's a lot of noise here. I don't believe it'll pick this up. There's a lot of... It's in there, but it's real weak because of the antenna situation. If I had a better antenna or outdoor antenna, it would work, but not as well as a higher end SDR. But for the purposes of this video, we'll stick with kind of the higher range. You can also do railroad. There's not much activity right now. But normally you could pick up some of the railroad. These are kind of my normal frequencies here. You can do ADSB if you're interested in tracking airplanes. I don't have the correct antenna plugged into this. You can, the antenna that comes with this RTL-SDR has two different size, I guess whips you want to call them, telescoping whips. And if you put the smaller ones on and either get it outside temporarily or put it in a window, you could probably decode the airplanes. I have a separate Raspberry Pi with a real antenna on it that's cut to 1090 megahertz. So not going to get anything on this right now. But there's all kinds of, I mean, this RTL will pick up anything up to like 1.7 gigahertz. So if you have the right antenna, you can do pretty well with this thing. Another cool feature, let me go back here, is if you pull up the map, I mean, all those APRS stations we decoded show up on a map. And my FT8 signal shows up as a kind of a blue box here, which is pretty cool. But yeah, there's, let's see if my station, yeah, there's my station here. So it shows me on the map from when I sent that APRS packet. You can also, they have like some programming in this software where it shows you like a certain circle with all the repeaters in that area. So if I zoom in here, it shows me all these different repeaters kind of in town. Let's see. Yeah, here they are. There's our regular, whoops. I believe it's pulling, it might be pulling from repeater book. I'm not sure about that. But it looks fairly accurate and similar to what I've pulled from repeater book. So that's a cool feature. It also has, I don't know what that is, other like web SDRs. It'll show you if you're interested in like other OpenWebRX that you can listen to. It's got these little icons you can click on. There's a web SDR and Kiwi SDR. So, if you're interested in hearing what other people are hearing and seeing how it compares to your setup, you can check that out. And you could, of course, do radar. That's pretty cool. It'll overlay the grid squares. So I'm in EN50. I don't know how far it'll. Oh, yeah, it does break it down. I'm in EN50 UC here. So that's very handy to have. And I don't know what the OpenC map is. It doesn't really help me here. But anyway, it's a really cool map. A really cool feature to have on here. So what do you need to get started on this? Well, you need a Raspberry Pi. I recommend the Raspberry Pi 4. If you can get a Raspberry Pi 5, that's great. I haven't tried one of those yet. The 4s are pretty easy to get. You can get them on Amazon, and I'll have links to all this in the description. But here's a 4 gig model. If this is all you're going to do on there, you probably don't need the 4 gig model, but that's what Amazon has. They do have a 2 gig for a couple bucks cheaper, but at that price, you might as well get the 4 gig. If you happen to have a micro center near you, they're a little bit cheaper, but you can't get them online. You have to go in. Like, I think Indy is one of my closer stores here. But this is the 1 gig model, which is what I'm using right now. And it's, $35 plus, you're going to need a micro SD card, case, and the proper power supply to power the thing. And if you're going to hook it up to a monitor to at least set it up, you're going to need a micro HDMI to HDMI cable or whatever display you have, but that's normally what you use because the Pi 4 does not have a full-size HDMI port. So the second thing you're going to need, once you get that, is you need to install the Raspbian Lite operating system, 64-bit. I'm not going to show you how to do that in this video. I have a dedicated video to that, which I will link in the description as well. The reason I use the Lite is because it does not have a web interface, which keeps resources available for the actual program you're running, versus if you had the full desktop operating system, you're going to get bogged down with all the resources being taken up by, all the graphics and everything, which we don't need. So that's why I always use the Lite version. If you're going to be using it more as a desktop, then you can install that version, but the one I install in my separate video is the Lite version, because I just remote into it. You can also hook it up to your TV to set it up as well with a keyboard, and you won't need the mouse, but the keyboard. But anyway, I just remote into mine. So the next thing you're going to need is the RTL-SDR. And this is the one I recommend. Looks like they're getting low on stock on Amazon, but it's the RTL-SDR V3 model. And get the one that comes with this little dipole kit, which is pretty handy to experiment with. And again, this will not, the actual dongle will do HF frequencies, but the antenna is not, it's basically not long enough to get down to those frequencies. So unless you're like, right next to a really strong AM broadcast station, you're probably not going to pick it up with this antenna. So for that, I'd recommend something like a magnetic loop, or if you've got outdoor antennas, like a long wire dipole, or just some other bigger antenna that will pick up those frequencies. It'll work with this. So what we're going to need here is the software, which is the OpenWebRX Plus. There's a regular non-Plus version, but the OpenWebRX Plus does a lot more, and it's a lot easier to set up getting started. I'll have this link in the description as well. But you can kind of see what it does here. It's got all these built-in decoders. It can record audio. It has a scanner built in. It does SSTV and fax decoding. It has all these bookmarks. You can add your own bookmarks, or you can use their bookmarks for various frequencies. It just does a lot of stuff. So what we're going to do now is we're going to come down here to Debian, because this is basically what we're using here. The Raspbian Lite OS, as at the time of this recording, is based upon Debian Bookworm. So we want to use these commands to get the software, because if you use the older version, it ain't going to work. So first of all, we need to connect. If you're plugged in with a keyboard and a monitor, just log into your Pi with whatever password you set up, or the default password. So I'm going to go ahead and SSH into my Pi, and your IP address will be very different from mine, but that just happens to be what mine was set up as. So before we run these commands on the screen here, go ahead and do an update, which is sudo apt update, just to make sure we have the latest version. I'll make this a little wider. There we go. Okay, looks like I have a few packages to update, so I'm going to do sudo apt upgrade. Okay, there's 8 to upgrade. Just hit enter for yes. Make this a little wider. There we go. All right, so the first thing we're going to do, let's make sure we're root. So let's do sudo su dash. Okay, now we're root. So we want to copy these commands. We'll do one at a time here. Paste that in. Okay. Paste that one in. Okay. And run our update command. You can see the one we just added here is the Open Web package repository, as they call it. Okay, so what we want to do now is scroll down here, and we're going to do this, apt install OpenWebRX. And this is going to install a lot of packages, a lot of stuff. Yeah, 268 packages it's going to install. It's 144 meg. So we're just going to let this run. Okay, so this is going to ask you what you want your password to be for the interface to set all the settings. So you can just put in a password here, make up something. And now it's going through all the, it's installing all of those now that it's downloaded all those packages. All right, so before we get started on seeing if this works or not, if you're interested in using this software to decode DMR, System Fusion, D-Star, and NXDN, there's a little bit more work you got to do. There's a special software package you need to install, and these are all the instructions, and I'll have this website in the link in the description as well. So let's go ahead and do that, because I know a lot of people are probably interested in those modes. So you got to jump through a few hoops to get to that. All right, so we're still in we're still here as root, so we're going to go ahead and paste this in. And it's going to install some more packages. All right, now that that's done, we're going to run this command, this git clone. Paste that in. And then we're going to do cd mbelib. We're going to do this command, dpackage build package. All right, so we want to cd out of that, and then we want to run this command. All right, so now we need to install the CodecServer soft MBE. Go ahead and do that. Whoops. Do the dpackage build package. All right, now we want to copy this in. Oops, let me do my CD and then copy it in. All right, so finally it wants us to add these lines at that file. So let's copy this. And then we'll do nano etc CodecServer CodecServer.conf. So way down here, we want to paste. Then we're going to do a Control X, hit yes to save, and hit enter. All right. So now we need to restart these services, which you can do with systemctl restart, let's see, CodecServer, and then OpenWebRX. That just gets all the stuff we just installed visible inside of OpenWebRX. So now we're going to go back to here, and it wants us to go here, but in our case, I'm connecting to it remotely over the network. So instead of localhost, I am going to put in my IP address, which is 67, and then you want to do a colon 8073. If we did this right, okay, we have OpenWebRX. Now you're probably wondering why there's very little options in here, and nothing's actually, we're not getting anything. So what we want to do is go into settings, and then we're going to put in, I believe admin is the default username, and then whatever password you set up earlier when it prompted us to put in a password. So let's jump into the SDR devices. All right, so here is our RTL-SDR USB stick, and it looks like we're getting an error here. So what I would initially try to do is restart the Raspberry Pi, because I haven't done that yet after installing all this, and sometimes it needs that to kind of reset itself. So let's go ahead and reboot it here. I'm just going to do sudo reboot. All right, now I will ping it to see when it comes back up. All right, it looks like it's coming back up, so I will reconnect via SSH. All right, so now let's go back. Oh, I'm hearing something. All right, let's turn that down a bit. Okay, so as you can see, there's only two selections here. So we're not getting too many options here. The thing with OpenWebRX, let me mute that. The thing with OpenWebRX is you have to define the bands you want to receive. And the way you do that is you go back into your settings, and let's go to the main setting. Oops, I gotta log back in. And the way you do that is you go into your SDR devices and profiles, and then this is what we've got is the RTL-SDR USB stick. So what you want to do is hit new profile. Okay, so here's what we got to do. Let's just say we want to listen to the weather radio frequencies. So I'm going to call it NOAA weather radio. Now, before you start putting in frequencies, you got to change this over here. Normally I just change this to megahertz, and then the sample rate I change to the ms/s, and then change the other frequency to megahertz. And it'll be on FM, and for this I'm going to do, we're just going to pick kind of the middle, which is 162.475. The sample rate, for this one I'm just going to do 1, which is going to be 1 megahertz of bandwidth. And then the initial frequency for me, I'm going to put in my local weather radio. So as soon as you pull up this profile, it will bring you to that weather radio that's your local one. So what you want to do is come down here and hit apply and save. And then we're going to go back to here, and it should have auto updated. All right, here is NOAA weather radio. And let's see if we got anything.
Lows in the upper 40s. Chance of rain 40%.
Okay,
Wednesday,
that sounds good. Now you might notice this is kind of over. The colors don't look quite right. You can come down here and hit this little icon here, and it kind of does like an auto thing. And then what I like to do is slowly move this. Whoops. Now, if you go too far, you're not gonna see any other. You might miss out on some weak stations, which I don't have any right now. But you kind of got to tinker with these. But usually the auto gets you pretty close when you hit that. So that's how you set up a profile. So you kind of got to think, what do you want to listen to? You know, do you want all the stuff that I have, or do you just want to listen to 2 meters, or you just want to listen to, you know, FM broadcast? Say you want to do that. So we would go back to our settings, and we're going to do another new profile. So you can't listen to the whole, you know, you can't listen to all of the FM broadcasts in one profile. You kind of got to split them up into chunks, because the RTL-SDR will only give you 2.4 megahertz of bandwidth at any given time. So if I wanted to do, I'm just going to pick one locally here. We're going to do, let's see here. I got to change this again. Megahertz, MS, and megahertz. So we'll just say, this is kind of how I do it. I just do FM radio, and then I put like, say I'm going to do this, just so I know what section it's going to be in. Let's see. I'm going to make the center 98.1. The sample rate will be 2.4 to give us as much as the SDR will take, and then I will pick a local thing here. And modulation for this is wide FM, WFM. And that should be it for now. You can add a lot of other things. Sometimes I'll put the gain on here, and because the default or the auto gain setting sometimes is too much, and it just you know, you'll get a really strong station that wipes out all the other weaker stations. But for now, we'll just hit apply and save, and then go back here, and now we've got our FM radio. And as soon as that comes up, let me shut this off here. As you can see, this also has RDS built into it. So it decodes kind of like your car radio would do, or if you've got a desktop radio that has that built in. It'll show you the artist and the song title, and usually the call sign of the radio station. So that's another perk of the Plus version of OpenWebRX. Again, it's really handy if you're going to do, you know, a little bit of FM DXing. It's not as, I would say it's not as sensitive as some of the other software out there that decodes RDS. So, but you know, for general use, it works pretty well. All right, so let's go back into settings, and we discussed before if we did want to add, say, your AM broadcast. As I mentioned before, the antenna that comes with this SDR, it just doesn't cover those frequencies. But say you wanted to add it anyway, there's a little bit different step you have to jump through. So let me go ahead and change these. And then we'll just call this AM radio. And we'll make the center frequency, for me, I'll just do that. Sample rate 2.4. And we'll make the initial frequency 1.4. And then for modulation, we want to go AM. And then we want to come down here and select direct sampling and hit add. And for this, we want the direct sampling Q branch. So we're going to hit apply and save, and we're going to come back here, and we're going to select AM radio. Now again, I don't have a good enough antenna on here to decode this. I mean, you can kind of hear it, but I have a lot of interference, and there's just a lot of noise because I'm inside and there's a lot of stuff going on in here. This doesn't really have a lot of filtering for certain bands on this little SDR, but that's how you would do it if you wanted to listen to AM radio. All right, so say you wanted to do the airplanes, the ADSB tracking. We'll come back here and we'll do a new profile. Let me change all this again. Actually, this one we could change to gigahertz. And then we'll call this like Air ADSB or something like that. And then I'll make the center frequency 1.09, and then we'll do 2.4 for the sample rate, and then we'll do 1.09 again. Now, the modulation for this will be ADSB, which is all the way at the bottom. And then we're going to hit apply and save. So the first thing we need to do is go to this, the RTL-SDR website about the dipole antenna kit that comes with the SDR. And for ADSB, you want to use these two sections, or whips as they call them, for this frequency, because this longer one is not the right size for the frequency. So put those on, and then come down here. You can also see this is it's pretty close to 1090 megahertz, which is ADSB. So basically you're going to put that small antenna whip on these two here and just keep them fully collapsed. You don't have to extend them at all, and you should get pretty good results. And we also need to check the settings. We'll go into settings and hit general. Make sure you have your location set right. I think it defaults to somewhere in Europe. So you can either input your latitude and longitude here, or you can just kind of drag the map. Whoops. Just drag the map. Might have to zoom out here to your location. We're almost there. Here we go. Here's Illinois. Zoom in a bit. It's probably pretty close for the purposes of this video. You can put in, you can input some of this if you want. This is kind of for display purposes, but the location's the important part. And you can kind of scroll down here, and this is the number of clients. You're probably not going to have 20 people connected to your Raspberry Pi. It's probably just going to be your local. It's going to be on your local network unless you open it up to the internet. Let's see. One other thing you might want to change down here under map settings is the map type. It defaults to Google Maps, which brings up this weird error every time you open the map. So just put it on the OpenStreetMap. And for now, you can leave everything the same. Just go ahead and hit apply and save. And then now we will go back to our SDR page. And as you can see, we've got all these planes being detected. You can see the signals here. I've got the antenna in the window with the small section whips on there. Fully collapsed. So you can see we're getting quite a few airplanes here. And if we go to the map, you can see all of these planes we're picking up. And this is just with an indoor antenna. So that's pretty cool that you can pick up all this stuff, at least the stuff around you. I mean, this is, I don't have range rings on this map, but you know, it's pretty decent range for indoors, just being in a window. But you can like click on these planes and it'll give you a little bit of information, you know, how fast they're going, what direction, the altitude, and the signal strength of that particular signal from that plane. Let me click on one of these up here. Like this is American Airlines 1617. And if you click that link, it'll take you to FlightAware, where you'll kind of get to see, well, this flight took off in Tucson, Arizona, and it's heading to Chicago. So we just happened to pick up that flight as it passes over the area. So that's kind of cool. But again, I've got the small sections of that dipole antenna that comes with the SDR on here, and it's in a window, so it's working pretty good. All right, so a couple other things we want to check out in settings. If you go into settings, let's go into the SDR devices and profiles. Click your RTL-SDR, and then if you click down here under additional optional settings, there's a whole bunch of different things you can do. One thing you might want to do is if you're going to have this running 24/7 and you want it to decode things, or you want to track planes or APRS, make sure you do this keep device running at all times. Add that and then check that. And then you want to run background services on this device. So we'll have that going, so it'll always be running. And one other thing you might want to do is the scheduler. And this is pretty cool, especially if you've got it doing HF stuff. But if you put this on daylight scheduler, you get the daytime, the nighttime, and the gray line. So sometimes I will do, like on my other SDR, I could do like 10 meters on this one, and maybe 20 or 30 meters on nighttime, and then gray line, whatever. But it's pretty cool because it automatically tracks like the sunrise, sunset times. So you don't have to go in here all the time and change it. You just change the bands that you want it to monitor during that period of time. So when you're all done with that, just go ahead and hit apply and save. So now it'll be running in the background, and the device will stay on. And if any, you can always disable the device too if you don't want it running, but we'll just leave it on here. If we go back into settings, they've got a bookmark editor, and I've already added the ADSB, but you could come down here and add new bookmark, and say you wanted to add your weather radio frequency. You change that to megahertz, and then put in whatever your weather frequency is, and then maybe put, I don't know, either NOAA or weather or something like that. When you save that, and then you go back to your map and bring up the weather profile, they've already got bookmarks preset. It just says NOAA 1 through 7, but you can see this weather, that's the one that we just added, the WX. So there's the bookmarks. And then if we go back into settings, demodulation, decoding, if you're wanting to listen to broadcast FM, if you're in the US, you'll want to change this to 75. Let's see. And then if you want to decode the RDS stuff, you can click that. Not too much else to change on this page, I don't think. Sometimes you might want to change the decoders and all this stuff if you've got a lot running on your Raspberry Pi and you want to save some resources. You'll change some of these numbers, but most of them you can just leave. And then we've got background decoding. If you do want to do the background stuff, you want to check that box. And then here's all the different things that you could monitor. So if you want to dedicate it to ADSB, you could do that. If you've got it on HF, you could probably do 20 meters and do slow scan television, which it'll automatically monitor those frequent. I think it's like 14.230 or something. And if your system is set up to receive that and you have a good antenna, it'll save all those images and then you can go back and look at them later. Of course, it's got FT8 and FT4, Whisper, and then the packet is your APRS. So I'll go ahead and save that. Spotting and reporting. If you're monitoring APRS stuff and you want to send it to the internet, you can do that by checking this box and putting in all your information. And you basically turn yours into a receive-only iGate. So if you don't have any iGates in your area, it's a good solution for that. If you want to send spots like FT8, FT4, Whisper, all that stuff to PSK Reporter or WhisperNet, you can check those boxes and put that information in. And let's see. Here's feature report. This kind of shows you what modules you have installed. And it'll vary depending on which SDR you have. When you install this, it comes with support for various SDRs, but then there's a few that, like the SDR Play devices, you have to install a special module, and they give you links to the pages that tell you how to do that. If you scroll down here, there's a few modes that aren't installed by default. If you're interested in this free DV or the M17 stuff, you'll have to manually install those packages, and there's kind of some information here on each one how to do it. It automatically installs the WSJTX stuff, like this MSK 144 decoder, which is for meteor scatter stuff. You can install it with that command. That uses Direwolf for the APRS packets. That's automatically installed. JS8's installed. This Dream software is, I think not a lot, but a handful of shortwave broadcasters will use this. It's kind of like a digital audio thing, and that's a little bit more involved to install, but again, it gives you links to that. We already looked at the ADSB stuff for planes. That's already installed. There's a lot of different plane stuff that you can install that comes with it. There's an older, what I would call an older pre-ADSB thing, but I know a lot of planes still use this APRS. If you want that, you got to run this command on your Pi, and then you can get that. There's just all kinds of stuff here, but most of it's installed by default, so that's good. So one other thing I want to look at here, you might have noticed when we did the 2 meters here, it has packet set to 144.8, which is not standard in the US. I think it's used in other countries. But in order to get this thing to automatically decode, like in the background for APRS, you need to change this packet frequency. You notice some of these are in green, these bookmarks. So these have to be changed in a different area. So let me show you how to do that. All right, so however you edited this before, whether you have it plugged into a monitor and a keyboard, or if you're remoting in like me via SSH, we need to run this command. We're going to do a sudo nano /etc/openwebrx/bands.json. And when we go into here, you can kind of see each band has its own markers. Like, so 160 meters, this tells the program, hey, look for signals for FT8 on 1.840. And then you've got all these other ones it can look for, and then SSTV. So if you're trying to do an auto decode on SSTV on 160 meters, it knows, hey, go to this frequency and use LSB or lower sideband on that frequency. So we want to come down here to 2 meters. So by default, it gives us 2 different frequencies. 144.8, I believe, is the default APRS frequency in a lot of other countries besides the US. And you'll notice it's got another frequency here of 145.825. Now that is the International Space Station. That's the frequency it uses, and possibly some other satellites for APRS. So if you want to monitor that, leave that in there. But if you're in the US, you want to get rid of the 144.8 and put in 144.390, and make sure you put 3 more zeros after that. And you can tinker with this file a little bit if you need to change some other frequencies, but we're going to leave that for now. So I'm going to do a Control-X to save and hit yes, and then just hit enter on the file name because that's where we want to save it. And so now we're going to reboot this thing. So we're going to do a sudo reboot. And before I hit that, you'll notice, again, that by default, it's got 144.8, and then over here it's got 145.825. So we're going to reboot this and see if those change. All right, so it's coming back up, and you can see it's refreshed. Let me change the profile here to 2 meters. Okay, so now we've got our packet over here on 144.390, and then it's got the 145.825. So I'm going to show you another little tip here. Let me reconnect to my Pi. If you run this command, journal ctl-u OpenWebRX-F, this is kind of the live log here, and for OpenWebRX. And you can see it's opened 2 different ports in Direwolf, which is what you use to decode APRS. So since this is set to receive the whole bandwidth between 144 and 146, you could, in theory, if you were picking up the space station or another satellite on 145.825, you could also pick up your regular local APRS. So if I send from my HT, see, there we go. You can see that it picked up right here. So that's pretty cool. It might have actually picked it up on both because I'm so close to the receiver with my HT. But anyway, you can see my packet here was received. So that's one thing you might want to do if you're doing you want to use this for APRS purposes. All right, so one other feature I want to show you from this is the scanning feature. So basically how the scanning feature works is it will scan all of your bookmarks within whatever profile you're in. So right now I'm in the 2 meter, kind of the simplex range, and a little bit of repeater action here. But what you do is, first of all, you left click on the squelch option here, because probably it's going to be like this and really loud. So that'll squelch that out. And then if you right click, you'll see this little green flashing thing, which means it's going to keep scanning. So if I key up on my radio here at 146.58, it should pop on there. And there it is. Now if I go to, say, 5.2, it automatically jumps to that frequency. And then the same with 5.5. So that's pretty neat little feature. You just have to make sure you have the bookmarks programmed in the settings for whatever you want to scan in that range, and then you just right click on this squelch option to turn it on and turn it off. So pretty cool little feature built into this. Well, I think that's going to wrap up my coverage of OpenWebRX Plus. I think it's a really awesome program, and they're constantly updating it. It's free. There's so many things you can do with it, and I just like the fact that you can remote into it either on your local network or even over the internet if you've got that capability on your network settings. But it's a great program, and I invite you to check it out. All the links will be in the description, and if you have any questions about it, put them in the comments below, and I'll do my best to answer them. So thanks for watching, and we'll catch you in the next video, 73. If you enjoyed this video, please like and subscribe, and make sure to ding my bell to be notified when I post new videos. Thanks again, and 73 from K9SWX.